I don't believe necessarily that the European governments have really realised fully the threat long-term to one of their main income sources that they're facing if they're not waking up soon. Well, how do you see that race playing out?
If you look at the just raw numbers, I mean, Volkswagen was one of the leading car companies in China. That's no longer the case. Neither is Mercedes. The local manufacturers are definitely taking over now with BYD and Geely and so on.
But I think the main issue with the legacy cars is that they've still got a foot in both sides. So they're still making their ICE cars and they're sort of doubling in EV because they don't want to miss out on that.
And they're cannibalising their own sales. If they promote their EVs, people won't buy their Tiguan's or whatever, their Golfs. So it's
they're
a
being
difficult
pulled
situation.
in two directions, I think. Huh?
Even look at Hyundai, a Korean brand. Their EVs are $20,000 more expensive than their ICE cars. And Kia, it doesn't make sense to me.
But we think it's an artificial price difference.
Hi, welcome to the YEA podcast. And today we have really a very special team here because we got two people. Normally we fit one into the studio. We got two because we need, for this subject, we think we need two good brains. And we have today from Ludicrous Feed, which is another podcast station, if I can put it this way. We got Dr. Thomas Gan and Dr. Joy Yeo. And Thomas and Joy are a couple who have been making a YouTube channel all about EVs, really. And I suppose, Thomas, if I can start with you, did it start because you purchased an EV?
Yeah, so back in first of all, thanks for having us on your podcast. So back in 2016, I bought a Tesla Model S. I bought it because at the time I had a diesel SUV, believe it or not, a Hyundai Santa Fe. And this was causing grief for Joy and also our kids because our kids had asthma. So the diesel fumes were actually causing a lot of health issues for our kids, causing them to cough. So I decided to either switch over to a more fuel-efficient car or possibly an electric vehicle. And back then in 2016, there weren't that many options. So the Tesla Model S was pretty much it. And maybe the Nissan Leaf. We needed a bigger car, so the Model S was it. And we've had that car since. I haven't sold it yet. It's 10 years, almost 10 years in November this year. And it's been a great car, and we can talk a bit more about that. But that's how, I guess, the channel started from there, because I wanted to show people that you can live with an EV in Australia at the time.
So you kind of one of the early adopters there, kind of going, and I do remember the Model S coming out and there was a big fanfare about it and they weren't cheap at the time. So you kind of decided, from a health point of view, etc. I mean, was it your idea initially to say, look, we need to change the car, really put my foot down, or how did that all go?
It pretty much. I mean, I think for the first year of the Santa Fe, it was fine. And then after after a few months, something changed. I don't know whether like a filter broke down or something, but every time I would open the garage door, I would start retching, like just the fumes or whatever it was.
Little black soot particles that slowly went into the vehicle.
Yeah. Like there was just something, and every time I walked into the garage, I would get this like terrible headache and start retching, and I was like, I think it's the car, and I'm like, I know it didn't happen when we first got the car, but I think something has happened to the car,
right.
And now it's making me ill, and I said, and I'm pretty sure if it's making me ill, and I'm a big compared to the kids at the time, I said, I think it's actually making their asthma worse and we need to do something about this. Like their health is important.
So did you notice any immediate difference as soon as you went into the Tesla?
I mean, there were so many differences, right? So obviously there's no emissions from the tailpipe from Tesla, neither in the cabin nor around the car. It's quiet it feels like a spaceship when you drive it, and it's just a nice, comfortable drive because instantaneous torque. It's very smooth on the road. It's night and day compared to a diesel vehicle. So yeah, haven't gone back since. Yep.
Right, but from a health point of view, that you going into the garage, that stopped.
That stopped.
Right,
It stopped.
Amazing.
And keep in mind, there was still another petrol vehicle next door to it. I still had my CX-5. So it's not that I was just completely off petrol. It was just the diesel, I think. As soon as we got rid of that diesel one, I was fine again. And I was still driving a petrol vehicle.
Right. But, I mean, that's a little bit of a big jump to go from buying a Tesla to then actually starting a YouTube channel on the Tesla and then moving it into EVs in general. And I mean, you are a surgeon, so, you know, you're not really there under the car with your mechanical hands, and EVs probably need less anyway. So whose idea was that? I mean, did you wake up one day in the bathtub and go...
Well, let me clarify. So I'm an assistant surgeon, so I don't get in trouble with the medical board. But it's important.
No, I
that's
know
right.
that. This is like the gold maker's guilt, you know. If the assistant says he's the jeweler, oh my God, he's never working in that industry.
Well, someone's going to say to me, look, you're not a surgeon, but just to clarify. But yes, but back to your question.
He does all the hard work, and then the other guys just sign off and make the big bucks.
No, I wish that were true. It's a team effort.
I'm causing trouble here.
But back to your question. Yeah, so 2016 I bought the car. The channel started in 2018. It was actually on the 26th of January, and it was a hot summer's day. And I remember thinking that morning, you know what? I've been answering a lot of questions about my car. The same questions that crop up today still cropped up back then, obviously, like how far can it charge? How far can you drive? How long does it take to charge? What happens if the battery dies? All those kind of questions. So I figured in 2016, I got a GoPro for a Christmas present that year, the year before. So I decided to stick it on the windshield of the Tesla S. And I remember starting the car up and going on the camera, this is how you start the Model S. Flick the gear to drive, and I drove off. And that was it. It was like, I think, a 30-second video. And that's how the channel started.
Wow. So basically, you were just sick of answering all the neighbors' questions and thought, oh, if I can get it on a video and then give it to everybody.
Yeah. I wasn't sick of it, but I wanted to put it down on paper. Yeah, exactly. I can just go, hey, watch this video. This is what happens.
Right. Now, so what's Joy's role been in that case? Because I can hear and see somewhere when you walk around, there seems to be a camera person near you. Yes. What's going on? What's the role?
Okay, so I guess when the channel first started, she was kind of more in the background and holding the camera for me to document what I was doing whenever I needed someone else to shoot what I was doing. But I guess in the last year or so, she's becoming more present on camera. So I really wanted to get her opinion from a not only female perspective, but as a mom, and I guess just as a more family-orientated channel, so that you get sort of not just my voice, but another opinion as well, just to balance out our thoughts. And I think the viewers appreciated that over the last year from the comments we've been seeing.
Look, I do must say the whole energy space, solar, batteries, it's still very much of a boys' club. So Joyce, what perspective do you bring to it? It's basically an EV doesn't bite you and it's easy to go?
Pretty much. And I'm happy to ask the dumb questions so that, you know, people don't feel like, is this too basic a question? I can still ask that question. And then, you know, it's like just like a welcoming space so that, you know, people don't feel like it's something that's too difficult or too scary. That it's just to make everything a little bit more accessible and a bit more, like it's like, well, if we can do it, you can do it. That sort of feel.
But I actually would like to see one episode where the husband asks the dumb questions and you look like the one that knows all the answers.
Oh, don't worry, I'm full of dumb questions. Don't worry, because you never know who's watching the show for the first time, right? It could be the very first time talking about EVs or solar or batteries. So we always try to keep it real as much as we can.
So Model S had it for 10 years. How many Ks has it got on the clock?
100 and almost 120,000 kilometers.
Which is actually not that much because most people drive about 15 during the year, so 150,000 I would have expected. Yep. And I mean, I know I've seen Model S's even for sale that have 300,000 plus. So you could have it for another 10 years.
Probably, yeah.
Right. But would you expect somebody might make you an offer that you can't refuse?
I like to see it as a collector's item because you can't buy a new Model S anymore in Australia.
Right.
So 2 reasons why I'm not selling it: to show you the degradation is not as bad as you think, and secondly because you can't buy it again. So it's
right.
It's a keeper.
What was the reason for Tesla to stop the Model S? I mean, it seemed to be a big winner.
Yeah. So you can still buy it in the US, but I think our market is just too small for them. It's just not worth their time to sell it here.
Right. There was one issue with the Model S that a friend of mine, both of them had a Model S. And when they drove through a lot of pothole areas, they tend to keep on issues with their rims, where basically they had split rims simply with the weight of the batteries and all that and the type of rims that they had on their car. You've never heard that kind of issue before?
I mean, I haven't driven through that big a pothole, so I can't comment. So my rooms will be fine.
Right, okay. So look, I have to actually tell you here, I got you here under false pretenses because I'm looking to buy an EV. I've kind of sniffing around it, and I'm actually kind of not that impressed with the whole scene because, when I grew up, the car still had silver bumper bars. And those little Märklin cars, they were round ones and square ones and really flat ones. But I feel it's very much looks very similar, what are we getting into Australia? And then I look some videos out of China and there's some very cool cars and something really flipped out coming through. And I'm going, I want one of those here. And the one that I liked just now, the VW bars, I looked at it and I look at the price point and I pulled myself back off the floor. So my point is, from what you've seen in the whole EV space, you've seen now suddenly a lot of brands coming out, etc. But they still look to me all very similar.
This is true. I guess, okay, so China obviously tests a lot of their cars in-house in the domestic market, right? So that's their testing ground, and they'll probably just export the ones they think will sell the best in Australia. And unfortunately in Australia, dare I say it, boring cars sell, right? You got the best-selling vehicles are utes, SUVs, and Toyotas. And I'm sorry if you're a Toyota fan, but Toyotas just are not the most inspiring vehicles, but they sell well. This is the boring Camrys, the Corollas, and I think China's clued on. They just want, obviously, to enter our market with cars that do sell well, and hopefully they'll be able to bring those cars you've seen on the internet we've seen in China as well, as the market develops a bit more. Well, we're only 10% of new car sales are EVs as of last month, so we're still getting there. We're not as good as other countries yet, but hopefully that'll start to change very soon.
Can we just kind of play a ping pong game that I actually come to you guys and say, look, I'm interested in EV. I have no idea what I need. I have no idea what I want. What are the kind of questions you would ask me?
Oh, gosh, I've never been in sales before.
But I mean, you would probably ask me how many Ks you're planning to drive. I'm just
and
want to
who's
get
going to
this.
sit in the car?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So
is it just for you, or is it for who else will be sitting in the car when you drive?
Yeah, my wife doesn't trust my driving that much, but possibly 3 to 4 people once a week, and the rest of it be just for me.
Okay, and then what's your budget? I guess that's the next question.
Oh, yeah, I'm a tight ass. But look, I do think I'm going to go up to 80.
Okay.
I'm actually the kind of guy who buys a car after 1 or 2 years because I think, Jesus Christ, look at this, there's 1/3 of the buy price.
Yeah.
So I possibly would buy something that might have already been on the market a little bit, but it has 15,000 on the clock.
Yep.
And how, I mean, do you need carrying space as well, or do you just want?
Yes, I do. And I actually want to have a tow bar on it as well because I got a trailer and I fix things on houses and stuff. So I want a bit of paint up the back and don't want to put it in the car. So you've got to have a bit of towing capacity. Now, I hear that the range does go down quite a bit if you have, like 2 bikes on the roof and you have something towing and all of those things. So I want to have a decent range to start off with.
Yeah, look, I think if you want a second-hand EV, it's probably not as well fleshed out as it would be in the next 5 years, I think, at the moment. There's not too many available, but you're probably looking at a large SUV at this stage, medium-sized to large SUV. So, like a Tesla Model Y, BYD C-Line 7, from a pure EV point of view, Xpeng G6, those kind of vehicles. If you want a bigger SUV, you've got the Kia EV9. That's quite a large car. That's probably closer to $100,000 at this stage. But if you wait a few more years when they do come back on the market, a second hand, then it might be closer to $80,000 at that stage.
And the other thing is that do you like a car that has more your traditional look with, buttons and gadgets and gears, or do you want something that looks like an iPad on wheels?
No, look, just a few buttons, please.
Yeah, so Tesla may not be for you.
Yeah.
This is just pure screens.
So I wouldn't then go with like the Tesla or the Xpeng.
Yeah.
Right.
BYD probably.
BYD.
Might suit you.
Geely. But the Geely's a bit small,
It's
isn't
small.
it?
It doesn't have a tow rating yet.
I mean, my wife keeps on saying, look at the Kias. But then price point,
They're
haven't
honestly, they're a bit expensive.
for what they give you. Compared to the normal Kias, is it?
Compared to the normal Kias and compared to a similar vehicle that's made in China.
Right, right.
Although the Kia EV5 is made in China as well. That's why they can price it so well.
Right.
Yeah, that's the mid-size SUV.
Okay. Okay. So I might look at that. And how long are they already in the second-hand market now, or they just come out?
There wouldn't be that many, I think, at this stage.
Well, what about the Ioniq?
Yeah. Ioniqs, again, they're probably expensive for what they
Expensive, isn't
are.
it? That's
They're
the
nice
thing.
cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kia's not a bad option, actually.
It seems now that the hybrids taking over even in numbers a little bit from the actual EVs, which I'm surprised at, because I've always thought I'm going to get a big solar system. I also have a battery. I get my EV. I literally can drive for free at that point in time. Why wouldn't you think to save your $2,800 in petrol every year out of the EV? That's my logic, okay? Now, I just don't see it take off in the numbers that we would have expected.
Yeah, I think you're preaching to the converter. That what you've said is just, it makes perfect sense. Solar, battery, EVs. If you drive in the city, no problem. Like the average Australian will drive 30 to 50 kilometers per day. Like an EV range is 400 Ks. It's just a no-brainer. You don't need to charge every day even. Charge once a week, you're fine. But I think your point about hybrids is because there's still this perception in Australia that we need to drive a lot, right? Even though the average Australian family will do 1 to 2 road trips per year, there's this like redundancy that we need that range to be able to do the road trips, or just in case we need that extra range. I don't know what it is, whether it's because our country's so big, we feel like we need to drive around Australia. Every family needs to do that.
I got to stop you there, because we're, from a population point of view, are some of the most centered populations, because by the time you take the major cities out, you've got a little bit of frill-frail. I mean, sorry, regions, I love you, but the number of people you got, they don't, for all the regions, I think Sydney has more than them all combined. We're talking the Dubbos and the Parks and all that. So hang on, we actually should be the city and the country that is most favourable of EVs, because we've got the sunshine and we've got the small distances day by day.
Absolutely. Makes sense. We've got rooftop solar. Once we put the batteries in, it makes sense. Yeah, and we could have solar farms all over Australia. We could easily power Australia with enough storage and solar for EVs and the grid in general. You're right.
But do you believe, Joy, for example, I'm going to push politics onto you now here, but do you think the fact that solar and battery and energy has actually been one of the big whacking points between the two political parties, that maybe has something to do that, the 40, 50% that vote for one party listen to them and possibly think, well, it's not the future in the way that it's presented and we're finding all the faults in it, and maybe is that one of the reasons why it's slowing?
I mean, yes and no, because I think at the end of the day, if you just make it cheap enough, I think it doesn't matter what political party you follow. I think if it's the cheapest option, people will just go with that. Like the dollar is what people would follow more than what they've been told by.
Right, so I get brainwashed, but then when I put my brainwash versus wallet,
It really is. I think so. Yeah. So I think as long as it's cheaper, then people will be like, nah, I'll just take the cheaper option.
Even EVs, like once you have a car that's affordable enough, that's cheaper than the Toyota Corolla or whatever it is, the cheapest car out there, then they'll go, you know what, I'll just buy it because it's cheaper. I think that's a good point.
Is that what you've seen in the market too? Like say with the Dolphin and the Aura that are coming through on very low price points, are they the ones that then suddenly take off?
Yeah, look at the MG4 late last year when they had those discounts. They were selling them at $30,000 drive away. That's ridiculous. That's cheaper than a Toyota Corolla hybrid.
Yeah. Right.
And so that was number one for a while, a couple of months in Australia for EVs.
Right.
And then even with the Tesla Model 3, I think there was a point where I think every single accountant went out and bought a white Model 3 because they crunched the numbers and they worked out it was cheaper than running an ICE car. Yep. So, once I don't do the maths, but it's like once you buy it and the running costs and the saving in petrol, and they worked out it's cheaper over 5 years with all their depreciation, whatever, Google spreadsheet that they had, and then they all went out and bought a white, because it's the cheapest colour, the white Model 3.
Yep.
Right. Now, talking about Tesla here at the moment, we did actually, there was Elon, the hero of the slightly left of politics environmental people, and then he disappeared a little bit, and just like, what are these animals that are kind of bore under the ground? A mole, isn't it? And then he popped up on the other side of the fence and suddenly, and now he's kind of gone back underground, and all of that. Did you notice in your game that actually you suddenly found some people were anti-Tesla because of the politics?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, you'll always get the fanboys and fangirls that, regardless of which side he's on, they'll just follow him, right, or the brand. But yeah, it's suddenly the left were very anti-Tesla and anti-Elon, and now the right. It's funny. I know people who are not very, but more right focused in my circle of influence and friends. They're suddenly more pro-Tesla now, which is weird. Whereas 10 years ago, they were like, oh, can't stand Tesla, right? It's really bizarre how influential he could be.
Do you think what Elon's advisor said is, listen, mate, you're already selling a lot into this customer group, but over there on the more redneck side of things, you're not really selling many cars, and you got to turn up there for a while just to open up a new market.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether... I think Elon just wants what's best for business or what's best for his company or, his portfolio. I don't care which side. I don't think he knows which... I don't think he cares which side of politics he's on. He just wants a better outcome for his situation. That's what I think anyway.
Right. Okay.
I just think he wants to come out on top in any argument,
Yes,
I think.
that too.
Yeah, so he does have a sizable... ego. That has well, you can't get to where you are without, making, what do I say, cracking a few eggs when you're trying to make omelets or something like that. But I have some terrific stories about early Teslas, which I share with you, because I knew somebody who worked in Tesla in the very, very early days developing the cars. And I've got to be very careful here, possibly. People will say, that's never happened. And I get myself into trouble. But according to that person, they had a lot of little batteries and they had to kind of bring them together. And I didn't know what subject matter they should use to bound them all together. So they just used gypsum. And they created a form and put them all in and filled it in and this and that. And a guy from Japan came to kind of become working for Tesla and be their advisor. And they're going, he goes, oh, what retardant special material have you used here to get these batteries in? And he expected this long explanation. And the guy just said, chip rock. And the bloke just looked at him. His eyes was rolling backwards. And the same, they got a Mercedes guy in for crash tests. And I think at Mercedes, he gets about 150 models to smash them any which way. So he asked how many Teslas he's getting. He was told 2.
Well, you look at look at my Model S. You can actually see remnants of the Mercedes design. It's an indicator stalk, and the gear stalks look like a Merc. So you can see where the influences come from.
Interesting. But coming back to you guys haven't been to China together now. What's the impression? I think Australia, our relationship with China is very confused, isn't it? It's our biggest trading partner.
Yeah.
The US goes, oh, no. When they go to war with Taiwan, you got to be on our side, which way you're going and this and that. So how do you feel as an Aussie in China, and what would you say to people who've never been to China, what the first impression is, what really you took away, the people versus the politics, men, women, those dynamics? I'd love to hear the whole lot.
Yeah.
And I want to hear Joy first.
Of course. Go ahead, please.
I guess for me, it was just how crazy modern it was. Like, I felt like I was stepping into like a sci-fi movie or something. It's like so futuristic. And just so big, right? But big and developed and modern. So that was, just my first initial.
But is that possibly because you went to the major cities and all that? But did you go to the countryside as well? And is there a really stark difference, or you never got there?
Not really, because when you're on these sort of, they're not media trips. What do you call them?
Oh, junkets, let's be honest.
Yeah. You get sort of ferried from one place to another, so you don't have a chance to see anything sort of like independently. You just sort of follow the bus and follow where the bus takes you.
You get to all the sparkle bits.
They do bring us to the nice bits, obviously. But I've been on a few more than Joy, but they do. When you do travel between cities, you do see the more realistic China that they don't show you. And yes, there are a lot of high-rise buildings that are empty in some places. There are more rural aspects as well when you go to like a testing track in the middle of nowhere. So that still exists, but obviously the cities are very glitzy. They're very modern now. 60% EVs on the road, so very quiet.
So those big black soot pollutions over Beijing and all that we heard years
exist.
ago. Is that
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
not there anymore?
You go to Shanghai today, honestly, that doesn't exist. The air quality is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because they paid for our trip, but it's you can look at our videos. They're crystal clear air.
Yeah. LA's got much worse air
definitely,
pollution. Yeah.
What about the friendliness and the kind of genuineness and all of that? I mean, are you there just they want to use you to kind of PR their stuff, or do you form some real properly friendships?
Look, there's no doubt, obviously, we're there for a purpose to help promote their cars. Let's be honest, right? We're very, very transparent with that. But also, we get a chance to walk around the shops and things. They're quite polite people, honestly. And the hotel staff are very nice. There's a genuine warmth to the hospitality that we get, and not just from the tour guides and from the PR people, but just from the everyday people that you come across. And my Mandarin is rudimentary, but I can converse with them, and they're quite genuine people, I think. Yeah, it's just a shame because when you go to these places, like you feel like the infrastructure is there. There's beautiful hotels, the metro is fantastic, roads are great. There's just not enough Western tourists there at the moment. Unlike Japan or Korea, where there's a lot of tourists, whereas China feels like it's ready to take on the Western world to show the world what they're capable of, I think.
Now, obviously, you've noticed how many different brands have come out of China. And I'm just wondering, I remember there was NSU and Borquart, two German brands which both went bust in the 50s. And so those poor people who had a Borquart had to run around and find another person who had a Borquart who maybe was broken down, ready to give it up to have their spare parts kind of added to the old car. And now they're very collectible because there's only a few left. But with all those brands, some of them will fail. And then do you have like an orphan sitting there and you wonder what to do?
So Joy and I were invited to the Xpeng launch in Hong Kong. Do you want to talk about what He Xiaoping said?
Yeah, I mean, they're aware of that. They actually openly state that. And they know that there'll be, only some brands will survival of the fittest. So they just take it as part of natural market forces. And I think they know that it's not so much that they'll completely die, but they will just get eaten up by all the other brands. So there'll be brand consolidation. And so you end up with kind of like with the mobile phone situation, you just have sort of a few companies that make the phones.
Right. That means the more exotic you buy now, the chances are that car either is going to be a niche car or going to wander, because I like the look of the Polestar, for example, one of the earlies, and then I heard about something about financial trouble, and then I did a bit more research, and then I realized they're actually part of a huge group. So how can somebody write about financial trouble when they're actually part of that big group? So does it mean that maybe some of the large groups will consolidate their own brands, or how do you see it?
It's the same as retail, isn't it? Even retail in this country, you've got like the Coles Myer group or like Woolies, Big W. It's like they're separate brands, but they're kind of like all owned by one kind of big parent company. So the ones that do well survive. Sometimes they get propped up by the other company, but then if not, then off they go.
I think what we're seeing in Australia, I think we'll be fine. There are so many brands. We went to the Auto Shanghai show earlier this year. There are so many brands, like literally almost 100 Chinese brands out there.
Wow.
We're seeing just the tip of the iceberg. I think we're only seeing the best of the best from China. They're not going to export something that's not going to do well. So we've got, as you said, Polestar, which is the Geely conglomerate. So that covers Zeekr, Polestar, Volvo, Geely themselves. And you've got BYD, which is another huge group. They sell 30% of EVs in China. You've got Xpeng, which is another one we just talked about, and Deepal, which is also Chang'an. So we're already seeing, and Chery, MG, they're kind of the best of the best already, I think, in Australia. So I'm fairly confident they'll last the distance.
So what you're saying is the ones that are really, really exotic, we're not even getting them at the moment.
I don't think so. We've seen a lot in China on the roads and in the show, and I think those ones, the little ones, won't come here. They just don't have the capacity to export.
But there are some that we even saw. There were many of them in China on the roads, but they don't even bother coming here because they don't really want to bother with the Australian market. So there's some of that as well. It's like they're happy to stay in the domestic market or go to like a more quote unquote glamorous international market like Europe or actually not really America, Europe mainly, that they see that as like a more glamorous market in the Middle East.
Having said that, though, we're in a very fortunate position because, as you know, we have no tariffs on Chinese EVs. So we've got a huge opportunity in Australia right now to showcase, or to test what China's showcasing. So we've got so many brands here in Australia that I don't think any other market has to that extent. At one stage, New Zealand was ahead of us with what they were getting, but we're actually ahead now. We've got a lot to test from. I know Europe is probably more lucrative for China, but at the moment, with no tariffs, I mean, even Europe and the UK have got tariffs, and obviously America's got tariffs on China. But in Australia and New Zealand, no tariffs, so they see us as a testing ground for their cars. And as content creators, it's great because we can actually show the world what these cars are like on our real roads.
Now, one of the kind of things that people carry on about who don't want to do EV is that range anxiety issue. But I noticed, for example, I've got a Sig Energy at the moment, and I got 8 kilowatt hour stacks. Sungrow, we have some as well, and they got 5 kilowatt hour stacks, but they used to be 3.2, and they go into a 5, same size. The Seek has an 8, but they announced down the track they'll have a 10, same size. So the density of batteries and the ability to get stuff out of batteries is actually improving. So I would say down the track we will have 600, 700, 800 kilometer ranges. Would you say by then the whole game is over in terms of argument on range?
I think so. Like, there's two ways to tackle range anxiety. So you can either increase the charging speed of the battery, or you can increase the battery size or density. So I think most Australians don't need to charge that quickly, nor do they need that much range. As we talked about earlier, we don't need to drive that much in our country or in our cities. So yes, if you want that range, yes, the price point will be there. So we're talking solid state batteries, super dense, 500 watt hours per kilograms. I think that's the gold standard eventually. That'll give you 1,000 Ks of range potentially for the same size of car that we've got now. And if you're a busy tradie or a ute or a rep, then you need that range to drive every day, sure. But most Australians, we don't need that. We're also talking quick charging speeds. So in China, they're developing 1 megawatt speeds. At the moment, if we're lucky to get 150, so like almost 10 times the charging speed. So if you can charge your EV in 5 to 10 minutes, that's the same as petrol. Then you're right, it is probably game over at that point. Why would you buy a petrol car that'll take the same amount of time to fill as an EV at the moment? So you're right.
But I mean, then it's got huge geopolitical issues too, because if we suddenly don't need oil anymore, maybe the Middle East will be peaceful. I mean, we're going really tricky,
that's deep.
Very tricky subject here now. I'm not going to mention the word Israel. We'll leave that out of the podcast. Elon and Israel, that'd be an interesting one. Anyway, we'll move straight ahead. I'm noticing Thomas is getting a bit itchy.
It's above my pay grade, actually.
No comment. So we should give you little paddles. When I ask the tricky things, no comment.
Yeah,
no comment.
I'll just cough once.
But so you think it's over when it's 800 Ks and we can charge it? And do you think that's possible?
I think so. We saw in China already.
It already is available in other countries. That's the thing. Going overseas, you just and we did a road trip in the UK last year as well, and just seeing how easy it was to charge there. You don't need to plan your road trip. You don't need to, say where are all my charging stops going to be. You can just, as you would do here in a petrol car, you can just drive, and then when you're low on charge, you just turn into the,
There's that many there, is it?
Yep.
You just do your Google Map and it just lights up, bingo.
Absolutely.
While in Australia, do your Google Map and you have to tap it twice, and then suddenly something just fades out in the distance.
And there's like more than the eye can see. There's one stop will have like 30 chargers, and we're not talking London here. We're talking on the drive up to Scotland. So it's you're not
in the regions.
Yeah, you're in the regions. And the other thing is that you don't have to fuss around with an app and download this and have all of that. You just tap your credit card on the
unit
on the machine, and that's
it. So really, I mean, to our politicians then. Let's start with Albo and Chris Bowen. There are room for improvements in the whole charge infrastructure at the moment. We left it to the market, but there is, because on your show, it's kind of like, oh, there's a new charge station opened. It's one booth. It's in the middle of Wagga. Yay! And I hear the applause going in the background. And in China, they would have done 50.
Yeah. Hold my beer, says China. Yeah. I mean, you're right. So I'll give you some context. So there's 7,000 petrol stations in Australia. There's only 1,400 EV charging stations. So we're about a sixth of the way there.
Right.
I know. And we need, as Joyce said, we need banks of 20 plus per stall, per station, if you want to be serious about EVs in Australia.
Right. So one single one at the back of the NRMA building that you have to find through the back lane.
It's not going to cut it.
Right. Okay. But I mean, Tesla has discovered an opportunity there, and they are developing an infrastructure segment which will help them in the market. But they were always just for Tesla cars, which I thought was a little bit discriminatory. Are they opening them up?
Yeah, so I guess Tesla made it Tesla only initially because that was the premium they were charging to their owners. Because that was the benefit of owning a Tesla. You could charge at their network.
And it was for free, was it?
Initially, yes, but not anymore. Hasn't been free for like 5+ years.
But is it like the first guy who bought it, is he still getting it for free?
Yeah, so my Model S is in lifetime grandfathered in, so it's free for life.
He never selling that car. Is it going over to the new owner?
It does to the new owner, yes.
Yeah.
So at the moment, because the New South Wales government and other governments around Australia have partially co-funded a lot of new chargers, a lot of new Tesla superchargers are now open to all vehicles. So not just Tesla, which is really good. So because Tesla's still, I think, the most reliable DC charging network in Australia.
Right. So BP's moving into it. So who else gives us charging stations?
Yeah, so BP, Ampol's another one. You got independents like EVIE, ChargeFox. Yeah, so there's a few players out there, but we're waiting for the big player that will be happy to put out banks of chargers along the Hume Highway, Pacific Motorway. That's what we need to give that confidence to new owners, I think.
I mean, I think the ideal place would be Bunnings.
Absolutely.
And probably because they've got the grid to support that as well, because that's normally the excuse where they say like, oh, we'd love to put one here, but the network, the grid can't actually support that kind of like juice coming through. So
but I mean, if
you
you put a big enough solar carport, let's make it 150, 200 kilowatts, and then have a huge battery bank, decent size behind it, then a lot of times you could even really at least charge 10, 15, 20 cars by just total renewable.
Exactly. And they've got the footprint, right? They've got the car parks generally for Bunnings. So you could easily use 10 for chargers and it wouldn't affect the whole car park.
I mean, there are now carports available. Goodway's making a good one. I recently checked one out. So you could actually have the whole Bunnings car park that's currently open, covered in solar. That solar then go into nearby batteries. Those batteries then help charging. And because they've got the batteries, you could even drive to your Bunnings car park at night, becomes a lover's lane, and charge your EV at the same time.
Correct. Yep.
Bunnings, if you start doing that, I want a commission.
Not just Bunnings, but other nationals too. McDonald's, KFC, any big company out there, Officeworks, what else, IKEA, they could do it
But
too.
the fast food is good, especially on road trips, because chances are people are going to be stopping there anyway for food and supplies.
Now, I got a curly one here for you because that's the one thing that annoys me a bit about EVs, which is this. And I think some anti-EV people bring this up. My car is now getting 10 years old. The battery now is down to, let's say, 70%. Now, and I'm getting a bit annoyed with it. I think, I'm driving distance. I can't have it. Do I now invest in a new battery, or is my car actually a write-off, and is that actually planned, and all these cars are really only planned for 10 years and obsolescence, and they're all going into the tip? What do we do when I'm 10 years old as a car, and with my EV and the battery starting to go down too much and I want to change it? Is it economically really worth it, or do I just flog it onto the second-hand market?
I think, first of all, that's a bit of a myth at the moment. So when I first got my Model S, people were asking me, well, what happens when your battery dies in 2 years, like your laptop or your phone? And I said, well, let's see. Well, see you in 10 years. And 10 years down the track, which is today, I checked last year, my degradation was down to 7%. So I still have 93% of my battery after 10 years. And that's with the old battery chemistry, NMC, which you have to charge to 80, 90%. With the new batteries coming out of China, which is LFP, lithium iron phosphate, you can charge to 100% and the degradation is less. So
you're actually saying in 10 years' time I won't have a problem with my battery?
I don't think so. I think batteries are lasting a lot longer than what people are thinking. And because of that, it's kind of a two-edged sword, because because of the batteries lasting longer, the recycling industry has not had a chance to develop because there's less batteries to recycle. So yes, there are sort of black mass recycling plants in America and probably in China too, but in Australia we are not seeing that just yet. But I think as time goes on, yes, batteries obviously will degrade over time. There's only a finite number of cycles in a battery. Then yes, I think we need to talk about recycling. Maybe batteries are lasting 20 years instead of 10 years. But the time has to come when that has to happen, I think.
You understand we just have the battery rebate coming through, the federal one, and I always thought it was a bit of a waste in that 2.3 billion of federal investment that they haven't put 100 million aside to support some kind of battery recycling scheme, because that's going to be the big headache. And there are very, very cheap batteries now sold that I can't see lasting longer on their price point than just a few years. So that battery recycling need is possibly starting right now. But is there anything in the game already? Like if I had now a Tesla Model S battery that has died, what do I do with it?
Yeah, that's true. I don't have a good answer for you at the moment. I think that needs to be a solution thought out by the government, or at least the private enterprise to deal with it. Yep.
Right. I mean, maybe putting a small tariff at the beginning of the car to then have that money available in a pool, a bit like the bottle deposit scheme, and have that like the battery recycling scheme. I mean, there got to be something done sooner rather than later, because that's what gives the industry a bad name.
Yeah, correct.
I think some individual companies have like acknowledged that, and they have some sort of battery recycling. Like I think BYD said that they take the batteries back, or they've got a plan for the old batteries. And was it Polestar?
Polestar probably do.
Yeah.
They're very conscious of that.
Yeah.
Polestar like to blockchain and trace where their rare earths come from to develop the batteries. So I'm sure they've got something set up for that as well.
Right.
But then again, it just becomes down to the individual companies at this point, which is probably not good enough.
So you deal a lot with punters who contact the show and ask questions and show photos of their new car that they had and all that. So describe at the moment the development of the EV purchaser over the last 10 years, because you were right at the beginning. You were the lonely voice in the forest, and now there's a few more. So can you get us through that journey a little bit, or maybe both of you?
Yeah, so I think as with any new industry, you always target the early adopters who've got the money. Let's be honest. It's got to be the people with disposable income. So the channel started with, I guess, a lot of people with cash, retirees generally, and people with interest, so like retired engineers who understood the technology. And so they could afford the Model S, which was 6 figures at the time, to now, I guess, becoming more family focused. So you're getting a lot more people who need an EV for their family. So SUVs are starting to take off now. They're probably the biggest market at the moment. And that's why Joy's been valuable for the channel, to give that family voice, that female voice. Because let's face it, 50% of the buying market is female. Right? So I don't know why it's such a guy-dominated industry when half the population buying cars are female. Do you notice that too?
I would even say 50% of the male.
Yeah.
When they go to the showroom and say, I made that decision, but there was somebody behind them who actually influenced the color and the model.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel like going to a showroom or a dealership as a female?
Yeah, I don't know. It's still very strange, isn't it? Because I mean, I like to hide behind you normally anyway, just because I'm an introvert by nature. But I think a lot of women, and I mean, I can't speak for all women, but just from the ones that have like come up to me at like shows and stuff and things like that, and they'll say like, oh, as you say, I tell my partner what I want, right? So it's like the responsibility doesn't fall on me, but I've already given the list of things. And also I think, and again, this is a very generalization, like they don't really sort of look at the spec sheet so much as it's more about an intuition thing, is like, what does it actually feel like in the car? Do I actually like the way it drives rather than the sort of raw numbers? It's sort of like the actual experience of being in the car and making a decision that way. And yeah, I remember once there was a couple that came up to us and the guy's like, oh, but you know, the numbers are not, like, you got to look at this and this and this and this. And she's like, but I got to like driving the car.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah.
So there's the logical versus the emotional type of thing.
Yeah, and
isn't it?
I don't think it's necessarily a male-female thing. So, but I think it's just good to have that different perspective, because there's no point buying a car just based on the numbers. You've got to be sitting in it and driving in it every day.
Got to be happy with it. Yep.
Yeah.
And we had one viewer come up to us at a show to say, look, I love your videos because I like watching it so that when I go to the showroom or dealership, I already have the idea of the car in my head. I don't need to ask those questions anymore. I just have to fine tune my appraisal a bit more and ask the dealer specific questions rather than just going there blind. So I think that's the value of our channel.
No, that's very true. But when we come back to, let's say, the Chinese manufacturer towards the European, I mean, the Europeans used to dominate a lot of things, a little bit of the Americans. And I, with German background, have to say the German social state depends a lot on the income from the car industry. I mean, it's a huge income earner for Germany. And having that dominance that I think they never really even imagined that it could be threatened, seriously threatened now. And it is price point, for example, one of the key things. And I think I looked, as I said, at the VW iBus, and it's Volkswagen is the people's car, but at that price point, I don't think it should have that name. What are you noticing? Has the Europeans kind of tried to win you over with a couple of trips as well? Or how do you see that race playing out?
Yeah, if you look at the just raw numbers, I mean, Volkswagen was one of the leading car companies in China. That's no longer the case. Neither is Mercedes. The local manufacturers are definitely taking over now with BYD and Geely and so on. And here, not so much yet, but I think the time will come. Volkswagen probably are worried, I would say, and they should be because the cars we've tested, sure, the driving dynamic of the Volkswagen is still very good, no doubt. It's a great car to drive. The Cupra is based on the Volkswagen platform, so they've got that behind them. They've obviously got the legacy behind them as well, so people will trust Volkswagen because it's a known brand. I think in terms of software, they've got to be better at it. The Chinese software is very good. It's almost to the point where it's as good as Tesla. So if Volkswagen could improve with their software and their price point, and that comes down to manufacturing, of course, then they'll be able to fight the Chinese properly with what they can sell.
But I think the main issue with the legacy cars and the legacy brands is that they've still got a foot in both sides. So they're still making their ICE cars and they're sort of doubling in EV because they don't want to miss out on that. But because of that, they have to price their EVs with a premium so that it's not competitive. They're automatically adding an extra cost to that because they're still trying to sell their ICE cars. So I don't think it's ever really going to work. I think you once sort of said it's like, having a wife and a mistress. It's like you can't kind of,
Yeah, and they're cannibalizing their own sales. If they promote their EVs, people won't buy their Tiguans or whatever, their Golfs. So it's
they're
a
being
difficult
pulled
situation.
in two directions, I think.
I think
so.
so.
It makes it hard.
Even look at Hyundai, a Korean brand. Their EVs are $20,000 more expensive than their ICE cars. And Kia, it doesn't make sense to me. And then people say, oh, look, it's more expensive, EVs. But you're already handicapping yourself by making it more expensive. We've had stories of viewers going to dealerships and they go in there with the mindset of buying an EV, but then the dealer will go, oh, have a look at this one. This is $20,000 cheaper. It's kind of like to get you in the store and then they show you something else. Right?
But we think it's an artificial price difference because the fact that there are all these other cars out there which are far more competitive and they're pure EV, says that either they don't know how to make cars efficiently or they're artificially increasing
But maybe
that.
it's just the big Chinese government having very big pockets and quietly under the table helping the industry. I'm not being facetious here now, but I don't believe such a thing as a level playing field actually does exist. I have seen in the past in business proposals anywhere that there's a subsidy initially to get people in, the buy two, get one free kind of game. And I don't believe necessarily that the European governments have really realised fully the threat long-term to one of their main income sources that they're facing if they're not waking up soon.
Yeah, there's no doubt the Chinese are helping their own companies. I mean, that's a smart decision, right? Why wouldn't you, to help your own industry? I'm sure it happens in Europe as well. I don't know what to extent, but I think,
it happens with agriculture as well.
In
That's
Australia,
fair.
yeah. I mean, here in Australia, we have subsidies for EVs a few years ago to help push it along. Yeah.
All right, so let's close our eyes, and from what you've seen in the last 10 years, now with the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 EVs coming mainly from China, what will be, let's say, the next 3, 4, 5 years, and then maybe the next 10 years? Where do you think we're going to go? I mean, are we suddenly going to, is the hybrid winning out for the moment? I mean, that's an interesting one too, hybrid versus EV. Where do you see it, just in the gut?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, look, the ute market is a huge market in Australia. It's a third of all car sales currently. So I think if we want to win the hearts and minds of the average Australian, then we have to develop a ute that sells, that is compelling enough to appeal to the average Australian tradie and also family who use it as a family car.
But the BYD Shark at 50-something thousand, isn't that exactly what they're trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great entry. It's not a full electric vehicle yet, though. It is a hybrid, and that comes back to your point about hybrids. So it's still seen as a compelling option for people who want that extra range to be able to tow the vehicle as well. Tow a trailer or whatever. So I think the ute market has to be overcome. The next one is probably the smaller size vehicles. A lot of people live in inner cities these days, so we're probably going to see a lot more smaller cars coming out of China as well. The BYD Seagull is a smaller vehicle. I think it's called the Dolphin Plus in other markets.
So is it even smaller than the Dolphin, or what?
Yeah, it's even smaller. Yeah, it's
right.
It's 3 point something. It's tiny, but yeah, that should be coming. Geely's also going to be bringing some cars as well. So yeah, the big ute market, and then the smaller SUV, smaller hatch. That's the next step, I think.
But do we think that we're going to be, what's it now in Australia, 15, 20%?
If you look at hybrids and EVs, it's about 25%. Just pure battery electric vehicles is 10% from last month.
Right. So where do you think we're sitting in 5 years?
Wow. See, at which point are we
I'm going to get you back in 5 years and give you the numbers.
Yeah, what point are we on the S-curve, right? So I think we're still there. We're not quite taken off yet. The mainstream Australia still is not quite convinced yet, I think, personally. What do you think?
I'm just all about the dollar. Like as soon as like an EV, like the EV is like cheaper than the ICE vehicle, overnight people are going to buy the EV. It won't even be like it won't be about the politics or anything like that. It's just as soon as it's cheaper,
and you're saying
overnight.
The European brands more, because there are still people who go, I'm not going to buy a Chinese car. All the data is going back to China, and somebody's going to know when I brush my teeth and all that kind of stuff. So do you think the price point of the Europeans is holding it back a bit?
No, because we all use, iPhones or Samsungs. I mean, I know Samsung's Korean, but I don't think there's anyone who doesn't use an iPhone because, they're worried about it being Chinese. So.
No. I get that. But I mean, some people might have had a VW Golf, and they're ready to move if the VW Golf E model would be the same price as the Golf in petrol. But because the Golf in petrol is $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 cheaper, their next generation will be maybe one more time a Golf. But if the Golf E would be the same as the normal Golf, then at that point in time, they might have decided to go to the EV car. So my point is the price differences on the Europeans, where people are brand loyal, might still hold us back a bit.
Yeah, look, I think Europe will always have that legacy, loyalty, premiumness that people want to go for. And I think it'll be always more expensive than the Korean, Japanese, Chinese brands. So I think that's not going to change anytime soon. So people buy a Merc, a BMW, Volkswagen because it's European. It's seen as more premium.
Aren't a lot of them made in China anyway?
Some, probably the parts are, right? Yeah, but
maybe some of the batteries Europe. Now too.
Correct.
Yes.
But that perception that Europe is more premium is there, and that won't change anytime. And that's fine. The people can do what they want. But I guess if you're more discerning, if you're more price conscious, then yeah, the Chinese cars are definitely something to look to. Will the Koreans get there? Yeah, I think they're still more expensive than Chinese as well. The Japanese market is interesting. They're really doubling down on hybrids. So the Toyota market is still very much hybrid. They're saying, look, our technology is better. People still want the range. So they're not quite serious yet bringing EVs. But if that happens, then I think that will actually help sell more EVs if the Japanese bring a decent EV to the market.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your own personal case, how do you actually charge your car? Do you use solar batteries already, or just run me through a 2-3 week time frame of charging the car the way you're driving and how you handle it yourself?
Okay, so we've got two scenarios. So I work during the day. I don't have that much opportunity to charge during the day, but Joy works from home with her business. So do you want to talk about how you charge your vehicle?
I mean, in summer and autumn, it's great because, I come home and I say to Tom, I said, the car's being powered by my sense of self-satisfaction because I plug the car in and it's getting, free sun and it charges all the way because there's more than enough sun during summer and autumn to fully charge my car. So I basically completely green during those.
Winter is a bit more of a struggle. How big is your solar system?
Okay, so it's 8 kilowatts. But I think we've had a bit of a paradigm shift in the last month because we've switched to amber. And this is not a plug for amber. We're just saying we love amber because it's really changed how we use energy, right? We used to think, okay, self-consumption, that's the key. But now with amber's pricing, which is wholesale, as you know, it's dynamic, it's fluid. So we see the electricity price like the stock market. So we don't really care what the price is. It's all relative. So if it's low, we're going to charge the cars, use electricity, and then sell when it's higher. And the battery using amber does it automatically.
And to be fair, most of the time that actually does balance with when there's more renewables in the grid as well. So
Correct.
It'll be cheaper when there's more renewables and it'll be more expensive when there's less renewables.
So is your charger or the Amber program telling you when the prices is cheaper and then it automatically charges your car? You don't have to run out and go and press 3 buttons or so?
You can do that with the right charger and the right car. So Tesla can do that. Some chargers with OCPP, which is third-party software, can do that.
Are you allowed to say brands? What are you using?
We've got a Tesla charger at home,
Right.
Gen 3 wall connector. And we are using something called Ocular, which is just a OCPP compliant charger. But we are looking at V2 Grid. Hopefully, Amber will allow us to enroll in their V2 Grid trial to be able to use that.
Right. So you looking at a battery too, are you?
So we've got a Powerwall 2, but
Right.
we want to upgrade to a bigger size battery.
And so you got, 13.5 kilowatt hours, is it?
correct.
Right. And I think the SIG Energy one is coming out with a charger that is vehicle to grid.
Correct.
You looked at that already?
We have. So we've just put a deposit on a SIG Energy battery, a big one, and then hopefully we can add that module when the price is a bit better.
Is this through the battery rebate, is it?
It is through the rebate. It's very attractive. That's what we went for it.
So how big, when you say we got a big battery,
Big.
what's big for you?
We maxed out 48.
Oh, you're going for the full
We went for the
48.
big boy. Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Okay. But hang on. I got to give you some good or bad news here.
Sure.
Oh.
I'm prepared.
You see, if you want the vehicle to grid charger, then you actually can only go to 40 because you're only allowed 6 items in the one inverter. If you want the charger separately, you would actually need to have a second stack down the track and a second inverter. Do you know what I'm saying? There's only room for 6, for whatever reason, there's 6 stacks, meaning you can have all 6 with the battery, or you actually have to sacrifice one battery to put the vehicle to grid charger on it.
Yeah, we checked with the installer. He said it'll be okay, but I will double check that for sure. But at the moment, it's quite expensive, that inverter.
Oh, yeah.
So we're holding off for now.
Yeah,
It's
no.
not
It
worth
is quite. I think it's somewhere between 3 and 5. I saw the price point for 5K. Yes, no problem.
Trouble is the industry is moving so quickly and the tech is moving so quickly. The more you delay, the better the technology is. And chances are the problem will be solved by the time you need. That's what we feel anyway. Just
True.
from our own
But I've
personal
done the numbers
experience.
on the battery rebate and the current rebate on the run rate of about 12,000 batteries that are estimated per week. And it's only 250,000 rebates that the money is actually there. They said $1 million, but that's for $2,300. Nobody's getting a $2,300 rebate. Everybody's getting 10,000 plus, like you guys did, which means there's only 250,000 solar rebates going to potentially 4 million homeowners, another million people who are interested. So 5 million people or households are looking potentially at 250,000 rebates. The way to get that across is Jimmy Barnes is playing a concert at the Opera House. 5,000 people turned up.
Yes.
250 tickets available. What do you think is going to happen?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. You better get in quickly. Like us.
Just buy early then.
Buy early, get in.
So I
you
mean, yes,
can,
you might get a better technology in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could have waited with your Tesla Model S because they did become a bit cheaper afterwards.
Definitely.
Yes. Okay.
It's become like an investment for the channel. So it's definitely like become our rock.
Yeah, so he's written that off. Now, talking a little bit about the channel, all right? I mean, these type of things are usually a labor of love, you know? And I mean, luckily you both do other jobs too, and maybe there was initially definitely some subsidy coming in. But how do you, I mean, you're an assistant surgeon, get that right?
Thank you.
So you're not a guy who kind of walks around with a begging bowl very regularly. It's not something you'd be familiar with. I mean, at the moment, possibly car companies come to you with the begging bowl, but how do you find your sponsor and things like that, and the financial planning and making it all work and grow your audience? And I mean, must have been so outside your experience in the past. How do you lie there awake at night, or you discuss it there just before you fall asleep? How do we get more audience?
Yeah, I look, we don't seek a bigger audience. We've never gone, look, we need more views, we need more clicks. It's not us. Like as you said, it's a labor of love. I do it because we do it because we love it. We love.
Because we both have day jobs,
Yeah,
so
we're
for
busy
us, we
enough.
don't spend negative mental energy on this. It's only ever positive mental energy.
We've got kids as well. Like they've got their needs. So we're busy enough as it is. The channel is just there to help us understand the industry and also to help the new audience, new owners and new people to the industry and solar, and to understand what it's about, right? To keep on top of things. In terms of sponsorship, like it's not making a huge amount of money. Like our bread and butter is still the work that we do outside of the channel. And we try to be transparent. So we if we're sponsored or if we're paid to promote something, or if we're flown to China or anywhere else, we always say, look, this is a paid gig or this is a sponsored gig. And I think our audience appreciate that. Like if we get a car for a week or a bit longer, then we always say that to make sure that people know exactly where we're coming from. It's up to the audience to make a decision whether they want to believe us, whether they think we're too bought or whatever it is. But we're very upfront with what we do.
But I mean, you see, I that part I possibly should have done a bit more research on. But so let's say Gilling or so gives you a Polestar for a week. You drive it around. You make a video about your impression and all that. Did you ever have a real dog and you thought, I can't really talk as badly as I feel about that car?
No, we're very honest. We always say positive and negative things about the car, and they've never come back to us and say, look, why did you say that? Honestly, if they did, we would say, no, all right, we don't want your car anymore.
Right.
We're always very upfront and transparent. If there's something wrong with the software, we'll say, look, what happened here? Why? And we'll show it on camera.
And the only car I've been really, really negative about was one that had a 3-star ANCAP rating, because obviously as a mum, I'm all about safety. And I'm like, how do you even, I feel like, how can you even sell a car that's 3-star ANCAP rating? Like, don't you feel bad that you're, putting something that's not safe on the market? But that's
No,
just my
this is a
personal opinion.
perfect car to give to the mother-in-law and put a life insurance on her.
I love my mother-in-law.
She's watching. Yeah, mother-in-law, love you. Yeah, okay, got that. All right. I've kind of run out of question here now.
Well,
with
he's
this,
just
they're
he's
coming
just
my
done
way.
12 times 2, like 24 hours
We
road
just drove to
trip.
the Gold Coast with Joy's parents in the car, in a Volvo, 6-seater.
In the one car.
Yeah, we survived.
There and back.
Oh.
People are like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it was fun. But I mean, I should ask you that.
We get along. I love Joy's family.
Look, they do say, look at your mother-in-law to find your wife in 30 years.
That's
Yes. And then some people go, oh, what happened here? Anyway, very, very wrong subject matter here. We're going to get some calls. Now, so in some way, having all that experience about EVs, have you been invited even by the government or so to kind of be in some of those workshops when they work out to kind of create the better transport for the future or things like that? Have you been kind of, or is it just all the punters that kind of ask you in the street when they recognize you?
I mean, I've been invited to host, be an ambassador for some of the EV shows. Future Drive Auto, I've done a couple of shows with them. Everything Electric, I've done a couple of speaker panels with them as well. Focus groups for governments, not yet actually.
No, but you have done a Radio National interview.
That's true. I was on Radio National. Do I want to be involved with that? I don't know. I feel like if I did, I'd be on the set of Utopia or something where we're just...
No, but I mean, really to make a difference and to get a better charge station going and to kind of think about really, like, for example, a lot of commuters go close to train stations now. They drive from where they're home to the train, then take the train. If those train stations now should be thinking now for in 10 years to have the solar car park, multiple levels, have the charge stations in there, need to have the cables in there. That kind of takes all a bit of planning. I mean, we're sitting there and making all the utopia plans of, we're going to be net zero, but those are the practical things we would have to change to make it all happen.
Yeah.
And if somebody like yourself who's got that experience doesn't share it with the people who are in the planning department, then we're going to plan for crap.
Yeah, look, we don't have a software engineering background. We're not engineers. We're not that technical. We're just consumers. So I'm happy to be on a think tank with the government from a consumer point of view, but that's all we can offer, I guess.
Right. Now, have you ever had like a big argument about a car where somebody liked one and the other one said, no, that's crap and, I don't like the smell in it, it's so plasticky? Or do you are you a very harmonious couple in that sense?
Oh, we do all the time. We argue on camera. Well, not argue, but we banter all the time on camera.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll say, this is a good looking car. And I'm like, no, it's not.
We're not afraid to tell each other what we think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks are subjective, right? So we always
That's
say,
the
look,
thing.
you don't like it, I like it. Let's leave it at that. And we'll let the audience decide,
Right. But I mean, are there kind of cars where you both walk into it and you fall in love with it straight away? Both of it?
I think the Cooper Tavascan, wasn't it?
that
That
was
was
a good
one. That was the first time we both liked the outside of the car and the inside of the car.
Yeah. I feel like it's a bit of a coin toss, right? If it's heads and tails, then it's neither here nor there. But if it's both heads, then okay, it must be something good with the car.
Right.
If it's both tails, then all right, it's probably not a good car. So it's good to have someone else to talk with you.
Now, I might ask you to reveal things that's probably still supposed to be done in your show, but how come you changed the Tesla Model Y to a new car? I mean, you've been with your S for 10 years. The Y is supposed to be a bigger and better car. How come you changed?
I mean, that's Joy's car.
That's
so,
my car.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I went to the launch of the G6 last year, I already
Xpeng G6.
Yeah, the Xpeng G6. I already sort of fell in love with the car. And then in January, we got the car for a few days to do a review. We did a road trip with it. And it was almost perfect, but it couldn't charge at a Tesla supercharger. And so I was like, oh, if only. But I mean, personally, I felt it was a much better drive than my Model Y, but I'm happy to stay in my Model Y. So I was just like, leave it, let it be. And then they approached us with the offer of saying, do you want a long-term loan of the car until the next one comes out? Because that's the one I was looking at getting. There is a newer version of the Xpeng G6, which hopefully can charge at a Tesla supercharger, but it's like an iPhone, isn't it? It's just slightly better than the previous version. And you always look, oh, that's an even better version, isn't it? But I was happy to stay in my Model Y until that one came out. But they're like, well, do you want to be in this current version of the G6 until then? I'm not going to say no to a car.
Yeah.
So
they provided us with a long-term loan, which is we're happy to say.
Right, so you sold the Y, got the cash, and didn't have to pay for the new one.
yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a good deal, right?
That's the thing, and we were very
open
honest
about
with
it.
it on the video.
What's the
We did a
phone
whole
number of
video.
that guy?
So that's the thing. Like we did a whole video explaining it, and
explain it. It's all transparent.
yeah.
It's all on our channel.
and saying like, and I said on the video like, I'd be silly not to, wouldn't I?
No, but I mean, generally, if you fell in love with a car and it had its plus points, and then you have an opportunity to talk about it, there's not a problem. I mean, I've been very positive about the SunGrow batteries. I've been very positive about the SIG Energy batteries because I look at both of them and I'm thinking they're solid companies. They are made a commitment to Australia. They're going to back their product.
Correct.
Those are the things that you look at, and it works for me, you know. And so from that perspective, there's then no problem to share your experience.
You're like us. Why would you put your name to something you don't want to buy yourself personally or promote? So,
I mean, if you'd hate that car, but because you're getting a freebie, you're going to make it a dog's breakfast look good. At that point in time, I think people would object. And you know what? You get found out very
I
quickly.
was going to say, and it's not us. Like, and they would know immediately. Like it wouldn't have been
I
true
wouldn't
to
have
us
accepted
at all.
something that wasn't up to standard.
So how many kids you guys got? Two. And they're probably still not that old. How old are they?
We're Asian skin, so we've got young. We're young forever, right? 13 and 15, so
Yeah, okay.
in their teens.
So, oh wow, okay. So they do need their energy consumption is going up very shortly.
Long showers.
Yeah, that's right. So how do you fit the kids into all? Because you must obviously prepare the programs. I mean, you've got all the videos ready. You've got the photos from people and all that stuff that's coming in. So there must be time going into preparing it. And then you both got busy jobs and so on and so forth. How do you fit the kids, the work, the normal stuff, the channel, all into one normal day? I mean, I can't do it really very well.
Look, the kids come first. Obviously, that's the priority. They always have. So if it's a school thing, it has to be them first. I mean, but there's not actually that much preparation. It's all in my head. So if I'm at work doing something, if there's a bit of downtime, I'll just sit there and think about it. If I'm in surgery, sometimes obviously you've got to concentrate, but you can kind of there are obviously some automatic processes which you do. Then you think it's about something else at the same time. It's actually in the post-production that's time consuming. So editing and finalizing the video. That's where the work comes in.
So you guys don't do them live, do you? You kind of video it first and then broadcast it later, or?
Yeah, so there's a live podcast which I do, but
Yes.
Joy and I do recorded content as well.
Right. Got it.
But even with the recorded content, it's normally just a single take and then just slightly edited afterwards because, as you say, who's got the time to redo things over and over again? And we like to keep all of the not all of them, but some of the mistakes and the bloopers and things, we just keep it in there because
Makes it real, doesn't it? Really? Yeah. But have the roles changed? I mean, initially it was all you. Now you've moved in. Now you moved in front of the camera. So is there now like a clear delineation, or all those tricky words, delineation of the roles that you kind of do, or you kind of mix and match between?
I think at the moment I'm still kind of like the host of the videos, right? So I'll introduce and I kind of guide the video, but Joy comes in with special comments. So that's how we run it at the moment.
Right. So you kind of wasn't there Hey Saturday? There was the pops. It was always rude comments.
It's not rude.
Now, you must have had the moment where, you were doing this and all that, and then one day a car brand approached you and said, "Oh, we'd like to be on your show," or something like that. Did it happen quite quickly, or was that must have been a moment of "Oh, look at our channel." Tell me about that.
It's always because we're nobodies, right? So we started the show as nobodies. So we've always had to fight to get cars on the show. No one's that really ever approached us with a car. I mean, now it's starting to happen, but initially it was always like when MG brought out their cars. When BYD first came on the scene, we had to approach them and say, "Hey, look, we're small-time content creators, but can we borrow a car or can we come to your launch?" And then over time, yes, they start to know us. People start to know us. Then now we're getting invitations to things a bit more readily. So yeah, it's a two-way street. You can't slag a car too much, right? They're not going to invite you back. Let's be honest. So,
but it's not. I mean, I feel, and it's the same way with the websites that I design. I always feel like this car suits somebody out there. So who does this car suit? Because again, apart from that 3-star ANCAP rating car, it's like. Every car, it's almost got like a personality. Like there's something about it that will click with somebody out there or a group of people out there. So it's just about getting all the sort of what is the positive of this car? Who would it suit? What are its strengths? And then telling people what are the weaknesses. If this is what you really don't like about a car, then maybe don't look at this particular car. So we just try and pull out what is the personality of the car and would it suit this person or that person?
We're not in the business of like totally destroying a car's reputation or like I know some channels do that. Like we're not in that business. We're there to critically analyze the vehicle.
So basically, from what I hear from Joy is there's so many different consumer groups, and what you're trying to do is say, this is more of a family car, this is got the sports angles to it, this is practical, it had a huge boot space, and by God, this is a ute that finally works for the Aussie plumbers.
Someone will like this car, right?
Yes.
Someone will like the vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we try to find, that person.
Right. Yeah. What about the models of how they're selling the car? I mean, we're hearing that maybe down the track I just lease my car or rent it or do an Uber type style thing. What do you think's happening in that space?
Yeah, so there's obviously buying it cash, novated leasing, which is quite attractive at the moment because the government has a FBT exemption. So a lot of people who are employees are finding that's quite a nice way to buy a vehicle. Subscription modeling through like AGL Origin, I think they've got subscription plans for their vehicles. I think for me, subscription has to be worth it. So the cars depreciate, let's be honest. They appreciate 20% of the first year, 10% after that. That's the general rule. So if your subscription is costing more than that depreciation, then it's not worth it. So I think you've got to do the maths on that.
But I mean, it's also, you need people's head wrapping around it, because in the past, I mean, it's like a laptop and your house and all that. It's mine. It's my car.
Yes.
Now, suddenly you're kind of treating it more like a commodity. That's a complete change, I think. And you see, where I see the issue with EVs is the ones that are willing to experiment and go into these new models without preconceived ideas are the young people.
Yes.
But for a lot of them, the price points are at the moment a little bit prohibitive. So from that perspective, it's kind of like a contradiction, because the best audience is probably the one that can't afford some of this right now.
So true.
So, but do you feel, let's begin to go 10 years down the track, are we going to have a whole different fruitcake of some own it, some lease it, some will just hire it in by the month, or what do you see?
Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it'll become like Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because people used to buy movies or buy CDs. Now we have Spotify, Apple Music, and that. So it's just all subscription based.
Whatever works for you. Like personally, I want my car. I don't want it to be treated like a public toilet, like having a robo-taxi, honestly. I don't want to step into a different car every day. So it's just for me personally, I need a vehicle. That's mine. Yep.
And I think I'm the opposite. For me, a car is like a phone. Like I don't really get that attached to it. And
Right.
that's why I don't even have a car now, isn't it? Because for me, it's just a
But
way
it's still your car though. Like it's yours to use
yeah
every day. It's not being shared by the community.
No,
right?
yeah,
That's what I mean.
that's true. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't.
Because my wife just had a couple of things happen to her car. Middle console, a little tear in the plastic that goes over it. That was $700. And then a little piece of, she hit another mirror and it cracked the plastic around it. And she was told that she was very lucky that on that particular Lexus, the plastic can come off, and that's a $300 part. But if she would have had to have the whole side mirror assembly unit with everything in it, I think she said 4,000 or 5,000.
Wow.
And I was going, we can buy a second-hand Golf for that or something, you know. So the spare parts. That brings me to a good question. Friend of mine had a BYD, got smacked in the rear, took him 6 months to get the spare parts. Is that an issue still with that actually bring the car in, but the whole background and logistic behind it hasn't really grown up, and people who buy them will have pain?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, servicing maintenance is definitely something that has to be flushed out more with new brands, right? So I think since COVID, a lot of supply chains have been affected, right? Not just EVs.
Right.
I've heard other ICE vehicles waiting for parts as well. So it's not confined just to EVs.
When you call them ICE vehicle, I'm sure that's a very common term in your world, but I always see them kind of like with a little bit of snow on top. What does ICE stand for?
Internal combustion engine.
Now you said it was so obvious, but I couldn't work it out. Right, okay, so you're saying that in general, spare parts at the moment can be a bit of an issue,
I believe so, yeah. But it's just a numbers game, right? So the more EVs that come, then there's more reason to have more spare parts in the country rather than having to ship from overseas all the time. Yep.
And have you investigated how they perform in crashes and all that? Because I've driven past a repair shop which fixes specifically Teslas. And I have to say, they looked, they're all designed now to crumple up so that it's very safe for the person inside. But Jesus Christ, the insurances must be paying a lot, because I've seen some impacts that look 20, 30 Ks and it, kept everybody nice and safe, walked away, and that's very important. But the car at the front looked pretty amazing already for a relatively what looked to be a small smack. Have you been ever seeing cars being, tested in that, in some of the visits you've done to China and all that? What's the philosophy there to keep the batteries not, in danger and all of those things?
I don't think it's about keeping the battery safe. I think it's about keeping the occupants safe first and foremost. So they will have, as you say, they'll have the entire car crumple around it, and then once the occupants are kept safe, then maybe consider the safety of the battery.
Just to clarify, I wasn't saying that the battery is more important than the person. I was trying to implement that if the battery gets hit hard, there could be danger to the occupant because of the battery. So I was still having humans ahead of the battery, just to get that clear, talking to two doctors.
But the trips we've done, Joy is saying that they are always very open about safety. That's like their paramount thing. They know they're exporting to the world. They don't want to propagate the fact that Chinese things are cheap and unsafe. That's one of the very important things they always show us. Yeah. They do the crumple tests, they do the nail penetration tests in the battery, and show us how safe it is.
They shoot like bullets at the batteries and how much force it can take on like this side and full immersion tests. I think it's if the battery gets flooded, what happens to it?
Right. They shoot bullets at the batteries. Is that for the US market? Is it?
And nail penetration, so they stick a nail through it to show, look, it's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's what you do every day.
Of course. That's right.
Okay. Oh, interesting. All right. So if you would wrap this up with a bit of advice to the Australian end customers who are now thinking, am I getting one more last generation of petrol? Am I going for a hybrid or am I going for an EV? What are the kind of, maybe from both of you, the key advice that you would give people when they're in that kind of decision-making phase right now?
Yeah, I think for me, it's your use case. So I think you need to be honest with yourself as to what you use your car for. If you're only using it for the city, then an EV makes perfect sense. It doesn't make sense to go petrol because it's a far more efficient vehicle in our city roads. You're a lot of stop starting, so you're not idling a lot. The motor just doesn't move right in standstill traffic, so you're saving a lot of energy that way. You can charge from solar, from batteries, and even if you charge from the grid, it's still cheaper than buying petrol at the pump. So I think if it's a city use, you should just go EV, honestly, right now. Sure, if you live in the regions, you need more range, do more long drives where there's no charges. I understand that. You might need to look at something like a hybrid.
Or an apartment. That's the other thing, It's like, do you have somewhere you can charge your car, even if you live in the city? Yeah.
So wherever your car spot is there a power point that is wired back to your meter, is it? Basically. Is that a big issue in apartments at the moment that they hadn't been planning for EVs?
I think so. There's a lot of fear-mongering at the moment that EVs cause fire. I think that's the main thing. And then they're worried about installing chargers in their apartments. That's the
you have to deal with strata, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm hearing from people, yeah.
So it's not so simple. If you've got a house, you can set up your own charger and get that installed. But if you live in a big apartment block, you have to deal with committees to have to get anything done.
And strata managers. Right. I mean, it took us only 3 years to get solar here on our our strata, but that's because we were persistent.
Yes.
Most other people would have been given up. We had to change the constitution. We had to kiss various backsides of people that are very nice people normally, but when you want something, suddenly they can change their mind. So stratas can be just the word alone gives me a rash now. Yeah,
I mean, it can be done. Like your brother-in-law lives in an apartment and has an EV.
Your brother-in-law.
My brother-in-law. Sorry,
I don't know what you're saying.
My brother-in-law, your brother, lives in an apartment, has an EV, and charges.
I think the issue isn't when you have one person with an EV in an apartment block who then finds somewhere a PowerPoint and just plugs it in and kind of just keeps it on low key. The issue we'll have is when you have one charger in that apartment block and 5 people with an EV and everybody wants to use it at the same time. So I actually see a business opportunity here for somebody to kind of reconfigure the electrical supply in apartment blocks to actually work with EVs. And in some way you might nearly need even some software to be able to kind of share that around so that the whatever is needed to come in doesn't kind of overload the system.
The other thing I saw when I was driving near our area today was more lamppost or telegraph pole chargers where there's like a charger attached to a telegraph pole and then parking spots in front of it. So they're near multi-dwelling places. So you don't have parking. You can charge on the street. That's becoming a thing.
And it's like nicely painted with, the green green
For
spot.
EVs only.
It's
But
not
look,
just
one,
for EVs,
one
for EV
last
charging only. Yeah.
finish you off on this one, which is the one that's going around in my head. At the moment, we want to have by 2030, a pretty healthy grid with a lot of renewables in it. But a lot of the renewable projects are currently stalling. Wind farms are getting stopped. The Queensland government's doing a reverse on a lot of things. And now they're thinking maybe we need the coal-fired power stations even a bit longer. If at that point in time we're moving all the EVs coming into the grid at the same time, one side of the argument could be, well, that could really make the grid even more unstable. Another argument could be, no, if those batteries are available for the grid, then it could create more stability. But that's very easy to set here in a theory in a studio. The software and the rights and the kind of degradation issues on batteries and battery warranties that maybe come if I start using my battery all the time to support my house. I mean, they're very complex kind of things. And it doesn't feel like there is anybody kind of bringing it all together and trying to create a solution. So we're sitting there and time is ticking away, but we're not really, we know what we could create, maybe if and but nobody seems to be having any leadership there.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think what you're alluding to is V2G, right? Vehicle to grid. And that has the opportunity to stabilize the grid if EV batteries can be used during times when, between the renewables going down, like the sun going down, and nighttime when the coal-fired plants are firing up. Yeah, I think that's probably the future, I think. A lot of the OEMs, their warranties don't actually explicitly say you cannot be used for V2G. So you can argue in court that's the warranty's fine from that point of view, unless it explicitly says not to be used for storage. So yeah, that probably needs to be
Do
sorted
they
out.
have in the warranty a certain number of cycles or kilometers like they have with the home storage ones for the cars as well?
Yeah, most will say it warrants to 70% of the battery's capacity within say 10 years, right? I know Tesla's like that. As I said to you, in 10 years my battery's only degraded 7%. So I think. And yes, you're right. Batteries have a finite cycle life as well. But I think from what I've seen, from what I've theoretically worked out, V2G doesn't actually affect your cycle life as much as driving does. That's just a small fraction of what driving actually
because
affects.
it takes it out relatively gentle, or
It does, yeah. Whereas when you're driving, you stop starting, the power, you're going from 0 kilowatts to suddenly 50 kilowatts and back down again. And
right.
It's a lot gentler on the battery with V2G.
Okay. Did you see anything with self-driving in China that impressed you?
Not so far, but I wouldn't mind seeing that actually. Yeah.
Right.
One day.
Right. And your Tesla does do a little bit?
Not to the extent it does in the US, where they've got quote unquote full self-driving.
But they did show us like a clip of, I mean, we didn't see it in person, but they showed us a clip of a car driving on roads that has never been before, on the opposite side of the road that it normally drives on. And it clued on pretty much straight away and did weird roundabouts and things like that. So, yeah.
And they do parking themselves?
Yeah, the cars do that now. You can park it by itself now.
Yeah, no, I need that one. No, because I don't even. I'm currently having a Tarago 2003. There's no rear vision camera, and I got a bumper bar, like a tow bar on the back, and I always got to think of that tow bar because it punches a beautiful hole into plastic bumper bars behind me, so people know that I was there. Not that I ever did that.
Good.
So if you have a hole in your bumper bar, don't you think
Completely
it was me?
hypothetical.
It was somebody else with a similar problem. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to all of those features. So I'm still in the market for an EV. So if any EV car manufacturer wants to have me drive one for a while to give some reviews, I am in the market. I love that VW iBus, but my budget is maximum 80,000, and this baby was right outside that area.
We've got that car coming up actually on the channel, so stay tuned.
There's a transporter coming, like a little bus. I'm looking for like a bus to replace my Tarago.
Okay.
That would be,
I
is
want
it the
an
Zeekr 009?
Yeah, 009, people mover.
Yeah, I want an EV Tarago.
Okay.
Okay.
They're coming.
Yeah, give me a call. I'll come over and check it out. Thank you, everybody. Very insightful. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for sharing your years of experience with us today. I have learned a lot. Hopefully you guys have too. Until next time.
Please support the channel by liking the video, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, and check out all our other videos. Want more energy answered? Visit yourenergyanswers.com for quality energy products, tools and calculators, and find your quality local installers. You're still here? I'll see you next time. Bye.